Like my whole life I've wanted to do stand-up just because I'm a wise ass primarily. And first time I failed miserably, second time was pretty good. This won't be the third time. So anyway, I'm the oldest Mumford. Gives me a certain credibility with my brothers and sisters that actually is nil. But nevertheless, I still play that till the string breaks. So as the oldest, I have this to say. I love my brothers and sisters. How's that, Judy? And it's true. So I have some stories about my dad. I'll start with the first one that I remember. I thought about this. I drove up from Tennessee. Some of you may be aware that's not really that close. But I'm glad to be here. I really dig when I come back to Jersey. Well, among the things I do is I go straight to Chrissy's restaurant, get something to eat. Who wouldn't? And then I look for some pizza pie. Because where I live, there's no such thing as proper pizza. But anyway, it had to be before I was 7, based on the house that we lived in. But my dad was a big jazz fan. He loved jazz. Now, personally, I have no use for jazz. But I was raised on jazz, and what was really important to me about this is he would come up and sit on the edge of my bed when I was a child, and he would explain to me all the musicians. You know, like that's Stan Kenton, and in his band he's got Art Pepper, and Art Pepper had some problems with the law. So it turns out he was a heroin addict and spent time in jail. But he would explain that to me as a child. He wouldn't quite give me those details. I learned them after the fact. But he was really passionate about what he was passionate about. And that's something I've gotten from my dad. Like, there are lots of things I don't give a rat's that I don't care about. And I violently don't care about the things I don't care about. Like, if it doesn't matter to me, I truly don't care. On the flip side, the things that I do care about, I really care about. That I got from my dad. And so when he would explain to me, like, the musicians and the importance of them, their history, that kind of stuff, I was really fascinated by that. As I got older, I learned that jazz wasn't necessarily the only form of music, and became a big fan of rock and roll. But that same passion, it has fueled everything I've done in my life, and I get that from my dad, and I'm really fortunate for that. I'm a cinematographer, and when I'm working, I work so intensely that I make the other crew guys around me nervous because I never lose focus. When I'm not working, I just don't care. Getting back to what I said earlier, the things I don't care about, I truly don't care about. So that's something I got from my dad. On his deathbed, I had the good fortune to tell him how fortunate I feel I am because I got the creative gene that has fueled my career. On my worst days, I'm still creative in some way, shape, or form. I take pictures constantly. Any close family members will tell you that I really irritate them to death over that. I have a technique where I lay in the corner with a very long lens and I pick off shots and I get great shots. So it makes him nuts, but it's part of that creative thing that I got from my dad. I was fortunate enough to tell him how happy I was and how fortunate I felt to be his child, to have known him and to have that creative gene that he gave me, and how proud I was to be his son. And for that moment, for me, that was a great deal of closure. My dad died the next day. For whatever reason, I feel good about his death in the sense that there's a lot of sadness generally associated with that, but because I had closure and because we got to have that last conversation, it really was a powerful experience for me that I will take forever. And I learned a little bit about people. Mostly I think I learned a little bit about me. But there's something to be said for like what's happening even right now, how people can come together and how important family is and all those constructs, but particularly family. Now our family got beat up pretty good over the years. Some of you may know the story more than others, but it was at times horrific. But the one thing that I've learned from this, and it's true with everybody in my family, but here's the deal with any Mumford. You cannot kill us. But if you could, you can't eat us. And that's a quality I got from my dad that I'm immensely thankful for. I am the most resilient guy I know, except for maybe other family members. I've gone through some tough things in my life, but I still wake up in my own home every day, and I spend a lot of time thinking about how fortunate I am. And the attitude I have in my own life, I think, is largely about my dad. I learned it from him, and I remember going to church with my mom, and my mom was a devout Catholic, and it was very important to her that we all went and that we all had whatever it is that church had. But my dad would say, just be cool to everybody. Or the golden rule, which is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. That's really how I've lived my life. I got that from my dad, and I'm immensely thankful for that, because everything else is details. But if you're just cool to everybody, you treat everybody the way you would want them to be treated, or that you would want to be treated, it all kind of works out, and I found that to be true. Now my kids, like, I learned to be a father from my dad, and some of his techniques were not necessarily great, but some were pretty good. I'm acutely aware of the ones that weren't great, and I think about it a lot. Like, I used to bust my son's chops a lot, you know, like not being on time or whatever it was, but my dad was the coolest dude I knew who happened to be my father. So, you know, like he got the joke for years, and that was a big part of our relationship. My goal would be to make him laugh. And it took a little effort sometimes. As he got older, I had to like be slower with the jokes and stuff like that. But we had some of the most incredible conversations, he and I, in later years. We would discuss politics to the nth degree, which is how I like to discuss politics, if you know me. And it was very fortunate. And I know that it happened at one point. I hadn't talked to him in a number of years. And when my son Sean was born, who I named after my youngest brother who passed away from cancer. My mom died of cancer, as did my youngest brother. So I named my son, he was the firstborn grandson. I named him Sean after my brother Sean. So while that was an important thing for me to have done, God, I was about to make a point. My son Sean's very cool. How's that? We also have a daughter, Brianna. She's also cool. Here's the point I was going to make, and I'll close with this. So Sean was born, and I hadn't really spoken to my dad for he came to the wedding, and this was like 9 months after the wedding and I was born, but I really didn't have much relationship with my dad. And when Sean was born, I had this epiphany, which is, I got to keep this kid alive, right? I'm sure some of us in this room have had that experience, like most of us. I got to keep this kid alive. Somewhere along the line in that period of time, I picked up the phone and I called my dad and I said, hey, I don't know what the issue was. Doesn't matter if there was any gray area. I stand corrected, and I get it. And from that moment forward, we had the relationship of two adults. And for that, I'm very thankful, because we could talk about anything or anybody, whatever it was, but it was no longer like a father and a son, like you should do this, okay, Dad, I'll do that. It was two adults, and we had a very good relationship as friends. And I'm immensely thankful for that, and it went on that way for years. Sometimes it'd be a month before I'd have an opportunity to speak to him, but when we did speak, we'd catch up on news, we'd talk about this and that, but we always laughed. And he had a great capacity for laughter, and maybe that's where I got it from. I don't know, I just like laughing. If you guys laugh too, that's cool, I don't care. As long as I'm laughing, that's my rule. But anyway, I stand here now, I'm 60 years old, and like I remember being a kid now, mostly because that's what I've been thinking about the last few days, but it's wild to think of how far all of us have come. And I don't know about you guys, I mean my family. Probably the same thing happened to you guys, I don't know, but it's remarkable that we're like these grown-ups, and you know, now I got nieces and nephews that are here. I'm playing guitar with my nephew. Like, that all came down from Dad. And I don't know what the next generation holds, but that's going to be pretty awesome. I'm now a grandfather. Let me tell you what about being cool. That's just awesome. But all of the good qualities I have in my personality, I know came from my dad. And for that, I am immensely thankful. Although my mom was pretty slick too. She was a funny lady. But I'm going to give Dad credit today, because that's what matters right now. Anyway, thank you all very much. Appreciate that you came to honor my dad. And we'll check you later. Thank you.